nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell here with my co-host Glenn Martin. And the Ravens all year have been wearing shirts that say BYOE, bring your own energy. That's what we're trying to do because we just lost. And we're trying to stay positive here as much as we can. The Ravens lose today to the Steelers, 28-24. And we're here to talk about it. All things Ravens, all things game review, what our concerns are, if there were any highlights, takeaways coming out of it. Give some of our notes and reactions to the game. So we're going to get right into it. But before we do, make sure you guys take a second to subscribe, hit the notification button, leave your comments this game. We want to know what your guys' thoughts are and hope that we can turn this ship around. But today we're going to talk about this loss. So Glenn, I'll let you start off right at the top. We lose 28-24. Give us your, couple instant reactions and we'll go back and forth.
Well, first thing I want to start off with, just give you a few stats to kind of give you an indication of how the game unfolded. Lamar Jackson was 13 of 28 for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. Rushing the ball, he had 16 carries for 65 yards. J.K. Dobbins, 15 for 113. So he gets over 100 for the first time. Is that correct, Jimbo?
Yep, sure is.
That's the first time, the milestone. And then Gus Edwards chipped in 16 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. So certainly looked like getting the job done on the ground. Not quite so well in the air, under 50% passing, and the 2 interceptions. And then receiving, Willie Snead led the way with 5 catches for 106 yards on 7 targets. Mark Andrews, just 3 catches for 32 yards. Hollywood Brown, Jimmy, 1 catch, 3 yards, was a touchdown, but still just the 1 catch and only 2 targets for Hollywood. Kind of surprising there. And then Boykin getting a rare highlight. He has a touchdown catch, and he adds 1 more. He has 2 for 20 and a touchdown. But then moving on to the other side of the ball, offensively for Pittsburgh, Big Ben goes 21 of 32 for 182 and 2 touchdowns. James Conner has 15 carries for just 47 yards and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster leads their receiving corps with 7 catches for 67 yards. Claypool is second with 5 catches for 42 yards, and Ebron has 4 for 48 with a touchdown. So not the most explosive offensive game for either team. Certainly not the best offensive game either team has put up, but Pittsburgh does just enough to get it done. And in a game in which, Jimmy, I'll be honest with you, the most frustrating thing for me, well, I mean, there's a couple things, but one thing I really want to touch on is the amount of self-inflicted wounds, and some that I don't think were very self-inflicted. I think the refs kind of jobbed us on a couple calls, but too many penalties, Jimmy. I mean, unbelievably bad timing on penalties too. I mean, it's a lot of third down penalties, a lot of chunk plays, pass interference that gave them big chunk plays. I mean, what were your thoughts on the refs and as on the Ravens making some bonehead plays, starting with Judon getting himself thrown out?
Yeah, that was where I was going to start. I mean, I understand, and you guys, as far as in the comments, might mention that, Judon wasn't trying to purposefully hit the ref and all those things. But at the end of the day, the skirmish had nothing to do with Matt Judon. I understand you want to protect your teammate, but I think that Marlon Humphrey's just fine. Man, he's going to be okay. The skirmish can be over and we can move on with our lives. But this is nothing new. Ladies and gentlemen, we should not be surprised that Matthew Judon did something of a bonehead move, because this year and years past, he has bonehead moments. Let's just call it what it is. It's just that simple. So I wasn't surprised that they said number 99 and you saw Matt Judon in there, because who else would it be, right? It's gotta be Matt Judon. So I hated that one, but I know we got in the end zone anyway, but the play, there were a couple calls that I thought if they were going to call defensive PI, it should have been defensive holding, which is different than a PI call. If you're going to call something, to me, call the holding. Don't call the PI. Big difference in penalties. Now, they're both penalties, right? But once again, one's a spot foul, one's a yardage foul. I think that those were ticky-tacky. I know that we ended up in the end zone anyway, but the call where they took back Lamar's rushing touchdown against Skura was invisible.
Yep.
Was invisible. So either way, I mean, yeah, the penalties, lack of concentration, but on top of that, the refs, it was funny because, when they did at the end of the game, there are 8 minutes left, they're driving, and Jim Nantz says, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have just checked in, finished watching Buffalo Patriots, he's giving the recap, and then he's like, now the Steelers are driving down the field. No, the refs were driving down the field. The
Yeah, two
Steelers were not.
PIs. Yeah, I mean that call on Bonds I thought was
So
poor. I wasn't a fan
pretty
of.
short end of the stick.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of a few of these calls. I mean, Bonds gets a bad PI. I thought Peters, I think, could have been called on holding, but the ball was well overthrown, nowhere near being caught. That's the problem I had with a lot of the PIs. Is the ball
Yeah,
was nowhere
totally
near to be
uncatchable.
caught.
It wasn't even in bounds.
Exactly. That's the part that really bothers me. It's not so much the call; it's the fact that, I mean, if you want to give him a holding, give him a 5-yard penalty and a first down, okay. But you give him 30 yards on a penalty when the ball had no chance of getting caught. I thought was a little bit ridiculous. I got tired of seeing it. I thought John was showing his frustration. He was not happy. But look, if you start the game in a hole, let's just go back to the very beginning of the game. Lamar throws a bad interception to Spillane, and it's funny because we're going into this game, when we do the preview, we see that Bush is out for the Steelers, and we expect that to be a weakness or a hole for them. And here's his backup. Mr. Spillane jumps the late throw by Lamar, very late throw by Lamar. I mean, the play was there to get the ball to Hollywood if he threw it on time, but he waited a second, threw it late, and it went the other way for 7. I mean, could it have started any worse if you're a Ravens fan or a Ravens player?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, yeah, focusing on the offense side of the ball, yeah, that was a terrible start to the game because they deferred and then scored in the first drive. So you
Yeah.
already know they're getting it at half as well. So you're in a hole, and they're getting the ball come out of the half. So that was frustrating. Lamar I was really excited for Lamar to bounce back in this game. Look, a lot of this falls on Lamar's shoulders. He had a lot of bad throws, a lot of bad decisions. We've talked about this. Ken McCusick called him the Babe Ruth of the read option, and he had a couple bad reads. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I don't think that Greg Roman is doing Lamar Jackson very many favors. Look, we talked about it. We were texting back and forth. Why are we empty? We should never be empty. Like, we just shouldn't. There should always be a back in the backfield. It just makes more sense. It makes the defense honor that. And you said at the right before we kicked it off, offensively speaking, there was some times we stuck to the run a little longer. It was absolutely dominating in the first half of the game. We went 14 unanswered, 17 unanswered.
Yep.
And then poof, it's gone. And then we're off the field. Like, I will never understand it. If you play football this way, you live and you die this way. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. And I think what's frustrating is how they decided to use. So, I mean, it can be a little bit misleading because of the fact that Lamar throws an interception on the very first. But here's what I look at, and this is what drives me crazy about the Ravens offense this season. They come out in the second half. They're up 17-7, right? Pittsburgh gets the ball to start the second half. The defense comes out, forces a 3 and out, which is exactly what you need. Okay, so they force them to punt right away. So now the Ravens are getting the ball back up by 10, and they throw on first down, and he throws an interception. Why? I mean, I just don't understand why you're going to that play. Okay, so then you go to that play. All right, so he throws the pick. And of course, as we know, always seems to happen, points off freaking turnovers. When you turn the ball over, it just always seems to be that the offense does something with it, puts up 3 or puts up 7. It just always seems to be that way. When you turn the ball over, the opposing team always takes advantage of it, and they did that time. All right, so they go down, they 2 plays, they get a touchdown, and they find Ebron wide open, completely uncovered on a drag route, and he goes into the right side of the end zone untouched as Fort releases him in what he seemed to look for help, and there was no help. I don't know really who was completely at fault there, but either way, wide open for Ebron, okay? So then now it's a 3-point game. All right, the Ravens are getting the ball back, right? So they get the ball, and they run the ball. Gus, 2-yard run, okay? That's great. 4-yard run. So now it's 3rd and short, and and they get incomplete pass to Dobbins on 3rd and 4. That killed them. Now, they did come out and commit to the run, but you can't go 3 and out to start the second half when you have a 10-point lead. It just drives me crazy. So my whole thing is you got to be more effective to start this second half. You can't come out and just lay an egg, and now boom, before you know it, even though you caused the Steelers to punt on their first drive, in their first 3 drives, they've taken the lead. They have a 4-point lead now. After you go to half with a 10-point lead, now they have a 4-point lead in just 3 drives. I mean, it just can't happen, man. It just can't happen. The second half, we talked about how good the Ravens are to start games. They're phenomenal to start games. They're great at getting out, and they were all last season. I think they scored almost damn near every one of their first possessions to start the game. But their second halves this year have not been pretty, Jimbo, on both sides of the ball, offensively or defensively. We saw in the Eagles game, they damn near coughed that one up. And then this one, they do cough it up. So, man, it's frustrating, man. As you can see, we're fired up, guys. I'm sweating just talking about it. But I'm sorry, but we should have won this game, and they didn't, and it's hard to stomach.
Yeah, if you just think about the stat lines that you read off, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 2 touchdowns and 182 yards. James Conner, if I'm not mistaken, ran for 47 yards.
Yep.
Just that alone, you read that thing, and or we ran for what? Over a little over 200, a little under 200, right around there. We ran for what? 100 and or sorry, what did we run for as a team? We ran for 265 yards. Sorry, well over 200.
Yeah.
Just that alone tells you, if I say that to you, Glenn, are you taking those stats coming into this game? Oh yeah, I'm taking those stats all day, right? I think that's a good day for us. And we come out and we shoot ourselves in the foot. We don't manage the clock. It's contextual football. Yep. Know the context of every single drive. You talked about it. It's not happening. Right? It's just not happening. And it's super frustrating. Some of this goes on Lamar. It has to. The bad decisions. Look, he threw 2 picks, threw a pick 6, threw an ugly pick in that other one. He coughed the ball up twice. So he had, 2 fumbles, 2 picks today, a 4-piece. I mean, it just can't happen. And it was almost 5. He dropped it running by himself.
And the Hayden interception that got overturned because it hit the ground could have very easily gone the other way. I mean, it was called an interception on the field, so we were kind of fortunate there that it did hit the field. So, yeah, I think that you called it before we started recording. Lamar, it just hasn't looked good this year. I mean, it's just what it is. Now, he looked great. Now, let me just say this. Let me just talk about a couple positive things, because there were some positive things that came out of this game, okay? Let me get back to some positivity, okay? Because I'm sure people are like, oh, my goodness, it was the end of the world. But that throw he made to Boykin as he was being hit in the left corner of the end zone was a phenomenal throw. He faces down the pressure, delivers a strike. I thought Ferguson coming in for Judon made some nice plays. He had the nice sack, and then he also had the nice play on Connor when he took on the guard and was able to shed him and make the tackle.
Edge. Great.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. I liked seeing that. I thought that the play by Patrick Queen to get the ball back down the stretch where he comes darting in there and makes the incredible collision to stop Connor. Although you mentioned he didn't necessarily wrap on that play, but made the play for the other guys to come in and help out. I thought that Peters bouncing back. They were kind of going after Peters a little bit this game, staying away from Marlon Humphrey big time. But I thought Peters bounced back after getting a bad penalty called on him to get that strip and get the ball going the other way. That was a nice play. Yep. I mean, I thought that Dobbins looked really, really good in some spots. I thought it was nice to see that even with Ingram being out, we still got two pretty darn good backs back there that can get the job done between Gus and Dobbins. I mean, what do you think about what those few players?
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly that. I don't think we need to go through and fix what has thus far been our best running game against the best rushing defense in the NFL. We rushed for 265 yards. And ladies and gentlemen, Lamar Jackson was not our leading rusher. In fact, Lamar had the lowest rush per attempt average of our three ball carriers and only ran for 65 yards. So between Dobbins and Edwards, those two accounted for 200 yards. I thought Gus looked awesome. I mean, I was expecting that. I'm a Gus guy and I believe in him, and he looked great. Dobbins' balance is incredible. Man, he looked good, looked explosive, and fought for every yard that he got. I'm excited to see it. I think that's the formula. I'm sorry, Mark, but you might have to be a full-time cheerleader or play the third role in a specialized situation. I don't know. I mean, having Mark can't hurt us, obviously, having him active, but him taking snaps from one of these two at this point, I think is a bad idea. I might be jumping off the ship early. You guys can smash me if you want. That's fine. I'm just telling you what I saw against the best rushing attack in the NFL. That was the combination that did it, and it looked great. So
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. I also liked that you brought up Ferguson. Great play. But there's something I want to say here. We've been beating Lamar Jackson's drum since before the season last year. I have all the belief in Lamar Jackson, but I really am tempted to rag here and to jump off the bandwagon and to trash him and to say all these things. But this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to be a little governed here. His coach, Joshua Harris, we've had on the show multiple times. We love Josh. Lamar Jackson, you talked about the great throws that he made. You remember when he escaped pocket to his right and hit Mark Andrews when he fumbled it? Only Lamar Jackson makes that play. I mean, that was an incredible play to escape that pressure. And then the throw to Boykin. And, he had some great throws today, but the inconsistency is due to the lack of fundamental discipline. He's got to be fundamentally sound. When his fundamentals are off, he's off. That coach has talked about that. It comes back to his base. Joshua Harris has talked about that. So Lamar needs to go back to basics. The other thing I want to say here, and sorry I'm getting long-winded here, Glenn, but I'm on one today. I feel like I'm at the pulpit.
No, you're good.
Is that I think it's now, I mean, it's 100% confirmed that Lamar needs that type of a run game to be the type of player he was in 2019. I don't know if it's the team or it's him trying to turn himself into something that he isn't. He's trying to fit a square peg into a circle hole. He's not a throw the ball 30, 40, 50 times a game. He's not that guy. And that's okay. Like, that is okay.
Well,
we love Lamar Jackson for who he is.
Yeah, and I think going forward, when you look at obviously the devastating injury it looks like to Stanley's ankle, and now the fact that Phillips looks to be a guy who, at least to this point, can't stay healthy, and then you see the adjustment they make when Stanley goes out, bringing Orlando Brown Jr. to left tackle, bringing Fluker in at right tackle, and then of course Macari comes in for Phillips at right guard. I think that this, because of the fact that this isn't last year's offensive line where you have two Pro Bowl tackles, you have a Hall of Fame right guard, and then you got a guy like Bozeman, who turned out to be a pretty darn good left guard, and is showing he's a mainstay in our offensive line and one of the guys we point to we can count on now. And then Skura, before the injury, I mean, he was playing above average, I guess I would say. And then Macari was okay. We don't have those guys anymore. That line is gone. That line is no more. And I think that the part of that line the part of the game that's most affected by the changes on the line is going to be the pass blocking. I mean, Fluker, if anything, he can move some men. I mean, he can move guys going forward, and so can Orlando Brown, even if he lacks athleticism to play the traditional left tackle that looks like he's going to be doing going forward for the rest of the season. I still think that they still have an advantage moving forward in the run game. Now, sure, they're going to take a hit in the pass game. So I agree with you. I think you got to be able to run the ball, and I think we got to lean on it like crazy, like we did. There was a drive in the second half where we did lean on that drive. We ran, I believe, 5 consecutive run plays, and shocker, it worked. It worked phenomenally. I mean, it's just the outsmart, and I get it. I know you can't just line up and run the ball every single time, and I understand that. But when you're in the second half and you're deciding you're going to throw the ball on first down and cause yourself to have second and long and third and long against an offensive line that's not great at pass blocking and a quarterback who hasn't been great at standing in there and delivering the ball this season, it's going to be a problem. So to me, I think you're right. I think you have to run the ball. And let me just say one more thing, because I touched on the penalties, but I don't think I brought this part up. The fact that we came off of a bye week and we played that undisciplined. We had that many pre-snap penalties. We had how many? We had an illegal shift, right? We had an illegal shift. We had a legal
Yep.
formation, and we had a 12-man on the field.
Yep.
3 pre-snap
Yep.
penalties, then a post-snap or a post whistle with the play by Judon where he gets contact, he gets thrown. So 4 of our penalties, Jimmy, didn't even happen between the whistles. That can't happen.
Mm,
I mean, that's
no.
that's just terrible. And they were all massive penalties. They weren't 5-yarders. These were 20, 30 yard penalties. It can't happen off of a bye week, man. It just cannot happen. It's very frustrating. We talked about their effectiveness after a bye, was very, very high coming in this game. So to get this to lose this game at home, the first game with some fans, very disappointing. And then lastly, I want to say one thing about Lamar before we stop. I don't want to be too negative, but when he got stripped, when we were inside the 10-yard line, I don't know if you remember that play by Bud Dupree where Bud misses the initial rush. Lamar's able to step up, but then he's careless with the ball and gets the ball stripped. I mean, you got to be better with the ball, man. You can't have this many. You can't just have the ball, holding the ball with one hand, holding the ball. You have to know Bud's coming. I mean, where do you think he went? It's not like anyone was blocking him. You just stepped up after he was coming pretty much free. I mean, I think Gus tries to cut him, but misses him. I'm sorry. You got to protect the ball better if you're Lamar, and I expected better from this offense coming off of bye week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and then I'm only gonna keep piling on for a little long here because I think deservedly so. But this is serving as therapy, hopefully for you guys as well. Look, I'm not a football expert, but if I'm not mistaken, Justice Hill was in for one play, and I think this is fitting that we rag Justice Hill. But it was a read option. Lamar keeps. If you watch that play closely, Justice Hill so Lamar reads TJ Watt. TJ Watt eliminates the option of him handing it to Justice Hill. So Lamar keeps it naturally. And then Justice Hill shrinks, makes himself as small as possible, doesn't even touch TJ. And then TJ tackles Lamar. So not only in one play is he able to cut off the run to Justice. Justice, it's like, when somebody bucks at you and you're like, one of those, he made himself as small as possible and JJ went right past him and then tackled Lamar. How do you allow one guy to cover 2 assignments in a play? I understand that he's a great player, but just put your body in front of him, man. Put your body in front of his. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, how I feel about Justice.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, we both agree on him.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that I'm concerned about. I just want to talk about the offense for just a couple more moments here. I agree with you there. I think this is my hope and my eternal optimism is this, that the dependency on the run, because I said it's crazy because Fluker is so good at moving people moving forward, not good against the pass. Like there's the discrepancy between his abilities in both are such that the running game did look good when you had more girth up front on the outside. You got 2 guys over 350 pounds, most likely, instead of Stanley, who's more of a finesse guy. Not that Stanley's not our best offensive lineman. I think that's clear. But as far as running the football and moving forward, we just got bigger up front. Now, Macari's smaller than Phillips, but even so, at least on the outside, the dependency on that could make life simpler for Lamar, could make life easier for our offense. And heck, let's lean into it and see how far it takes us, right?
Well, I think that hopefully it does, Jimmy, is it tells Roman, all right, enough with this cuteness, trying to get cute with these passes, man. Run the freaking ball. Now, hopefully, he is left with no other option, Jimmy, other than to commit completely to running the ball and play action off of it. I don't understand why we ever got away from it. I mean, I understand that you're trying to the what if scenario. It looks like that's what they were trying to do, is establish a consistent passing game in the case if they needed to deploy that. But let's just do what we do: get a lead and then run the clock down. I mean, that's just what the Ravens do. I wish they would have done it more to start the second half of this ball game rather than wait until. At this point, we're doing a tit for tat, where we're always down by 4 if they score, and then we're only up by 3 if we score. So hopefully that this just makes Greg Roman's decision-making process a little easier and make it a little bit more streamlined to the run, because that's what we want. But let me just talk one quick second about the defense, because I felt like the
Yeah,
defense
please
played
do.
their butts off. I feel like they stopped the run phenomenally. They had no rush attack from the Steelers. It was pathetic. Ngakoue came in, made a presence early. He was able to cause. I have a note here where Ngakoue pressure led to. I believe Elliott ended up getting the sack, but clearly it was Ngakoue's pressure that led to Big Ben stepping up and trying to avoid him. So I thought that the pass rush looked a little bit. It would have looked a whole lot better if Judon would have kept his butt in the game. But we can't. That is what it is, I guess. But yeah, I thought the defense played at a level that was winning football. I know that they had some tough penalties go against them that caused. I think that kind of aided Pittsburgh in getting some of those points later on. But to me, I was happy with how the defense performed outside of the penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. They had a 14-point handicap. I realized the pick six was obviously on the offense, but we had a chance where Lamar threw the other bad interception, and we had a chance to technically stop them. But come on, they're fighting with two hands tied behind their back. You put them in that situation. Not very many teams are going to be able to stop that from happening. So you're working in a 14-point spot. In all actuality, our defense, in my opinion, gave up 14 points.
Yeah.
Like, they came to play. They did their job when they had to. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but they absolutely came to play. They made the stops when they needed to. So I'm with you 100% there. I think the only thing that killed the defense, the hardest thing for the defense all day, was the refs. I'm sorry. I'm a biased Ravens fan. For all you guys that don't know, I'm a dying biased Ravens fan, but I'm sorry. Penalties, man. And it was, a lot of them were ticky-tacky. And I tell you what, the question I have is, how much money is Judon losing himself?
I mean, you just can't do
Like,
that. You can't have
it's
an
bad.
emotional outburst like that. And the one thing I will say, because I'm not going to be, again, I thought the defense played well enough to win, but one thing I will say, it would have been nice to see
Yeah.
them stiffen up a little bit in the red zone. The fact that they gave up, they didn't force them to kick any field goals, and that's what you have to do. You got to stiffen up a little
Right.
bit and get them to kick a field goal here and there. You can't just let them keep going in and getting 7. But other than that, and it's, again, some of that was aided by penalty, no doubt about it. But when a team can't run the ball, yet they convert in the red zone, that's usually that running game helps a lot in the red zone. They weren't able to run the ball, but yet they were still able to convert touchdowns in the red zone. So Ravens got to get better at that. But the good news is, Jimmy, if you look around the rest of the AFC,
What's the good news?
well, look, the North, the Ravens took a hit. They're not going to be able to just, walk away with the North and rest some players. That's probably not going to happen. It might help. The Steelers might be forced with the same situation or decision that John was last year on who to play in the last game. But the good news is, if you look around the AFC, there's nobody who looks like they could keep the Ravens out of the playoffs as a wild card. So it's not like, this is going to start us even with the Stanley injury, which is, I mean, no doubt going to hurt. I mean, you lose an all pro player. But I'll say that I still think that the Ravens are still very much in this playoff race, and who knows what happens once you get in the playoffs, Jimmy. You never know what can happen. I can see you're not thrilled, but you never know what happens as long as you get in the dance.
Yeah, I'm just struggling here. I'm struggling here because, look, I guess one thing that's good is that we normally split with the Steelers. And so, hey, if we come back and win Thanksgiving, that's going to be really fun Thanksgiving. But I'm just struggling. I'm just struggling because we don't look, man, the eyeball test does not pass for me right now. We do not look like a playoff contending team. We look like a 1-and-out team to me. But
Never picking
things
against
can
us
change
again.
rapidly every
It's
week.
my fault.
Yeah, you exactly.
I
But
picked us to lose by 4. We lost by 4.
The last, it's a lot of times about who's hot at the right time, who's healthy at the right time, and not necessarily who has the best record. It's a one win, one loss, you're out, sudden death type tournament. So you're right. All we got to do is get in. I just hope that a proper adjustments, you're right, it could be a silver lining, could be that adjustments are having to be made by force. It's no longer a choice, right? Based on our personnel, we have to do certain things, namely run the ball more. But you know what? That's what we got to do. And I think that we're for it at the end of the day. So I don't know. I'm struggling. You guys help me out here. Glenn, help me out here.
I mean, look,
I don't know
they can still win.
anything else positive to say other than J.K. It's looked good.
Yeah, there's a lot of positives. I mean, the Stanley injury hurts. It stinks. But outside of that, look, I picked us to lose this game, so it didn't really shock me that we lost. And I did say that typically in this rivalry, each team wins on the other team's home field. You know, that's what it ends up being. So if we go in and beat them on Thanksgiving, all will feel good again. And if the Steelers trip up from here to there, and then we end up with a similar, who knows? We could still end up taking the AFC North. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Look, Big Ben was grabbing that elbow, Jimbo. I know you remember. He was grabbing that elbow, Jimbo. If that elbow gets a little pop inside, then maybe all of a sudden Duck Hodges back in there at QB makes you feel a whole lot better about your chances at the North. But we're not rooting for injuries for anyone. I want to say that. But I did see that he was getting some attention from the doctors, and we'll see how that looks going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to see how the Ravens bounce back. Unfortunately, the Steelers have the next 4 weeks. They play teams that are combined for 4 wins, if I'm not mistaken. 3 weeks, I think it is. So, they'll keep winning. We'll keep buttering them up. But I'm really excited for Thanksgiving.
Let me ask you one last question.
Let's get back to work
before you check us out. Now that you just saw that game, how are you going to feel if they played next week? The Steelers and Ravens played again next week. How would you feel going to that game? Because I know I'd feel pretty good.
Oh, I would bet the house we win it. Because look, their strength is their defense. And it was hot knife. What is the term? Hot knife through butter, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, the dive play, Gus was giving it to him, just force feeding him. It's like, when you're a kid and your mom does the airplane and you don't want to eat the peas, but she gives you them peas anyway. I mean, Gus was just giving it to him, dude. My goodness.
That's not all bad.
You're right. It's not all bad, but don't get cute, Greg Roman. Come on, man. Just stick to the basics until they stop it and shut it down. And if the best run defense in the NFL can't, then hell, who can?
That's right.
So let us know what you guys think. Glenn, you got any thoughts here before?
No, that's it.
Leave?
That's it. Tell us what you guys think. Are you all right? Did you survive the game? Because it was a roller coaster, an emotional one. Goodness, does it come down to the last freaking play in this series? Every stinking game, it seems
every time.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think.
Absolutely.
What's your outlook looking forward? The Stanley injury, I know it sucks, but what's your thoughts on the offensive line and how they should run it going forward? Stay in there. We're still only 5-2, guys. Still looking good. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll talk soon.